good day. I'm Estie van Zyl. I'm the Sustainability Manager for Saint-Gobain in South Africa. The Sustainable Construction Observatory is something that's in direct alignment with our purpose, our vision, our mission, and our strategic plan for the business. For example, our purpose is to make the world a better home. Our vision is to become the worldwide leaders in sustainable construction. So really all of this is aligned to that. We are also an organization that is very much aware that climate change is accelerating. We're seeing more and more natural disasters happening. We're seeing the energy crisis in Europe due to the geopolitical situation. So really the time to act is now, and to really accelerate in the field of sustainable construction to ensure that we really become front runners in this field. I think as an organization as well, we have a presence in over 70 countries. So this gives us an opportunity to basically be, a reference company for other people, and to bring more and more stakeholders on board to really buy into the concept of sustainable construction. Okay, so the group used a French market research agency called CSA, who did the survey for us between the 14th of November last year up until the 4th of Jan this year. So basically what they did is they included 802 respondents from 10 different countries. 82 of those respondents came from South Africa. And basically we looked at 4 different groups. So we had 201 professionals from fields in construction, architecture, the environmental sectors, and housing. We had 202 members of the association that took part also from the construction industry, housing and energy. We had students in the fields of construction, civil engineering, architecture and spatial design that took part, and then lastly about 199 local elected officials that took part in this survey. So we wanted to make sure that we include countries from each continent. We looked at both developed and emerging countries, and we also looked at our sales in different countries to make sure that we include a group of people based on the sales history of the organization. I think what's important is, because this was the first study, we wanted to make sure that it's a small group so that we can do a proper analysis of the data, instead of including a large number of countries and then not properly analyzing and understanding the data and having action plans in place to improve. Yeah, so some of them, I would say, in terms of the emerging countries, I mean, we've seen some, climate change effects in South Africa. We've seen some in Brazil, India. So yes, I think in terms of the emerging countries, definitely. Yes, one is definitely planned. We will do one again next year in 2024. So we want to include more countries next year. We want to try to see if it's possible to include more countries. We obviously want to include the initial 10 countries as well, because the idea would be to see if there's any progress with regards to the awareness and the commitment towards sustainable construction. So we would want to make that comparison, because I mean, at the end of the day, the whole idea is to see a transformation with regards to sustainable construction. So if you look at the results, you'll see that both developed and emerging countries show a good awareness with regards to sustainable construction. I mean, the results show that 88% of respondents are familiar with the concept of sustainable construction, while 70% say that they feel that it's a priority to be implemented. So really you can see that both developed and emerging countries see the value in sustainable construction. For South Africa specifically, I would say that the impacts of climate change are starting to edge closer to home. I mean, we've seen the flooding in Mozambique. We've just last year had the floods in KZN. So people are becoming more aware of the impacts of climate change and realizing that it's time to act. And for that reason, it's becoming important for us to accelerate this, sustainable construction to really have a good impact. It's one of the main, ways in which we can combat the challenges that we are facing. So what we see in South Africa, the two things that were highlighted is firstly the training and qualification of professionals, and then secondly standards and regulations, and lack of standards and regulations really. So if South Africa is able to strengthen their regulations, we should be able to see more sustainable construction sustainable construction projects coming up. So I think it's more around the fact that we need to make things more compulsory, so that organizations and construction companies are forced to actually adhere to the regulations, and not just have it as a standard that could be implemented, but be something that has to be implemented. Absolutely. So I think in South Africa alone, we've got a contractor care program where we actually train contractors and applicators on the benefits of sustainable construction. We teach them how to install and apply the materials, so they really have an opportunity to gain the knowledge and the experience in this field of sustainable construction. And the biggest benefit of it all is it's free, so they can learn without having to pay anything for it. On top of that, we also have a youth build program. So what this is a program that was started in 2016, where we've trained 350 youths from disadvantaged communities in the field of construction, sustainable construction, and all of that, so that they can take that forward into the future when they go into their careers as well. So we are really trying to do a lot with regards to sustainable construction and training people in this field. We need to recognize that construction is one of the biggest consumers in terms of our CO2 emissions. 37% of our CO2 emissions come from the construction industry. They use 50% of our natural resources, and 40% of the solid waste comes from construction. So it's really an area that needs to be focused on. But in order to do that, we need to look at the entire life cycle of the product. So from the raw material conception up until the end of life of the building, we need to look at that. And if you look at manufacturing specifically for Saint-Gobain, we have lots of sustainability roadmaps in place. We look at how we can improve our production processes to ensure that they become more energy efficient, that we reduce waste, reduce water use, everything pertaining to sustainability. So there's a very big focus in the manufacturing plants on that. We also look at products, starting to make new products that, or even changing our current products slightly to ensure that they become more sustainable, so that we can reduce the overall CO2 emissions in the life cycle of the product. As I mentioned, the plants do have sustainability roadmaps where we look at water reduction, we look at waste reduction, we look at energy and CO2 reduction. So there's a clear target to meet that 2050 target to become carbon neutral. So obviously they execute on those projects on an annual basis to ensure that we can meet that target. On the product side, then we also look at how we can improve our products to become more sustainable. So for instance, we look at plasterboard. We're trying to see how we can make it as lightweight as possible, still with the same quality. And we've actually recently launched a board where we were able to reduce our board weight, reduce the water use. It has really a big impact on our sustainability roadmap, and our impact on the environment going forward. We also are doing a lot of work on the plaster side, so we are looking at how we can make our plasters more sustainable as well, looking at how small impacts and small changes in raw materials can change the entire impact in terms of our CO2 emissions. So we've launched a new product as well there called Gyplite that consumers can use if they're interested in becoming more sustainable and using more sustainable products. On the Isova side, where we manufacture insulation, there's also a lot of work happening in that space to ensure that we make our products, we reduce water. There was actually recently an article released where the Springs factory making the insulation has reduced their water use by 40%. which is a very big impact and really helps them to achieve their target for 2030 in terms of water.
So, good day. My name is Nishkala Naidu. I'm the head of marketing, communications and digital for Saint-Gobain, Southern Africa. So, as ST has mentioned, our purpose as a group is to make the world a better home. And within construction products, our market mission is to build better for people and for the planet. And a part of that, of course, is energy efficiency. As everybody in South Africa knows, we're facing some significant challenges when it comes to energy supply. So this aligns quite well to both our vision and our purpose within the group. In line with that, we've entered into a partnership with several other French firms like Schneider and EDF and the likes to advance the topic of energy efficiency, especially within the construction space in the country. We actually held our first energy efficiency event last year at the Schneider premises, where we invited local government officials and other stakeholders within the sector to discuss around topics of how we move the needle when it comes to energy efficiency, and in particular some of the passive interventions one can take within the construction sector to reduce energy consumption. Yeah, we're focusing on how we can move to more renewable energy sources when it comes to the plants, solar being one example of that. I think most businesses in the country are looking for alternative energy supply also just to stabilize the production processes. But with us it goes a step further. It's also a contribution towards our commitment to the net zero 2050 goals that we have as a group.
So sustainable construction combines performance and durability throughout the life cycle of a product, of a project. So it contributes positively to the health and well-being of people, to the environmental footprint, as well as makes it economically viable and gives economic value as well. So it's very important that we drive sustainability going forward with everything that we're seeing with regards to climate change, all the impacts that we're seeing across the world. The time, as I mentioned earlier as well, is the time to act is now. If we don't act now, then it's going to be too late.